Someday.
Yeah.
Someday this will all be over.
Do you mean COVID-19 or do you mean COVideos?
No, then we'll be up to COVID-20, won't we?
Oh boy.
This is the 19th coronavirus.
Yeah, I know.
And if you add up the names of Barack Hussein Obama, it totals 19. Wake up, sheeple.
Whoa. I thought it was called COVID-19 because it started in 2019.
That's exactly what it is.
Okay. All right. Okay. All right.
That's
I see what you're doing. Conspiracy theorists out there. This is all a sham. The virus isn't real.
It used to be that you had to go to some dank part of the internet. And I mean dank in the original sense, not like what dank has become on the internet.
Right.
To find the weirdest conspiracy theories that would eventually influence you to shoot up a pizza place. And now it's just on Main Street, literally.
Seems that way.
On a poster board being held by someone who may or may not be a crisis actor,
right.
but definitely has their facts all twisted up, which is to say no facts are present.
Yeah. Yeah. I would, yes. That all checks out.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. As in not checking out at all, but yes, correct.
I've got my eye on you. The internet's told me
to
watch out for you.
So I heard there was a protester in Arizona who was calling for other protesters to dress up as health professionals, just so they could make it look like health professionals wanted this pandemic to be over too.
Here's the problem. Nurses aren't that fat. They'll never pass. It'd be like trying to get Porkins if they brought Porkins along when they went to the Death Star. All right, Porkins, slip on one of those stormtrooper costumes. Guys,
right.
I'm just going to stay here in the control room, I think. Maybe I'll order in. Yeah, nurses generally not that big.
Yeah. Also, you have to do a lot to dress up as a nurse. You have to get an N95 mask, which you can't find anywhere.
Well, they've stockpiled them.
Oh, yeah, good point. And you have to get scrubs that fit, which was the main thing you were talking about.
Yeah.
So, but really crappy. Really crappy.
Yeah, that's I'd put that a couple steps below the pizza place operation for planning. But hey, this is the reality now.
I know, right?
This is what it is.
Yep.
Everybody save up your school shootings. Someday you'll be back in school.
Yeah. Isn't that something?
Hold on. This is why I'm supposed to have the gunshot sound queued up.
Whoa.
Let's see. That's not it.
Whoa, you're looking for it now.
That's the school bell.
Close enough.
This soundboard sucks.
Isn't it something
play the White
that
Stripes,
like one shooting happens in New Zealand and they're like, oh, no more guns. But that'll...
Is this a movie show or what is this?
What is this?
Come on, we got movies to talk about that glorify gun violence, so we probably should just get to that.
All right. Let's get to it.
We're talking about movies, of course, for your quarantainment movies, both classic and modern.
Yes.
And I didn't... I suppose we could do it every show. We don't have a script for this show, but yeah, we're doing it because the reasons is twofold. Reason number one, because you have a list that you have been compiling over the years, which are the movies that you want to see, be it things that you missed, things that you heard were good, or things that you feel like you have to see to have a core competency in cinema criticism, which I think is important. And number two, my list is just kind of whatever comes to the transom.
Yes, whatever you feel like that day.
It's also kind of those same things, but it's just I don't have a written down list. It's just pulled more from that sort of virtual pile of movies on my nightstand, that I'm trying to sort of get through. And so that's what we're doing for that. So do you want to tell us what your pick was for today's show?
Yeah, my pick was The Neverending Story. Very tempted to sing the song.
Yes. Unendliche Geschichte. Yes, of course.
Whoa, what?
The Neverending Story. English/German production. That's not a joke.
You looked that up. That's
directed by Wolfgang Petersen.
What?
And partially written by Wolfgang Petersen. He's He's an interesting guy.
Is he?
Well, he started off with Das Boot and sort of made his bones or his boots on that.
I've heard of that, but I don't know anything about it.
And he went on to do a variety of things. I kind of think of him as the German Tony Scott.
Oh, okay.
With maybe a little more, I don't know, a little more genre, a little more, sometimes some sci-fi. He directed Enemy Mine, which I talked about with my co-host Gooey Fame on the podcast Backtracking a little while ago.
That's an interesting sci-fi film.
Yes, it is. Thank you. Really big in the 90s, In the Line of Fire, Outbreak. Outbreak.
Whoa,
there you
that's
go.
timely. Yeah.
Air Force One, Get Off My Plane, The Perfect Storm, Troy, and the remake of The Poseidon Adventure. I think that's pretty much it.
Whoa.
Well, he's 80, so...
Yeah, okay.
So, give him a break.
All right.
But,
All
yeah,
right.
I mean, I think that he's a real consistent guy. He also has a lot of German work, too, that, we wouldn't know. But... yeah, I think he's a real consistent guy. He usually delivers a solid movie, up to you whether or not it's up your alley or not. But it's always pretty solidly done. Mm-hmm. And I have really nothing to complain about when it comes to Wolfgang Petersen, except the existence of the Neverending Story. Do the person who picks it? How do we break this down after 8 shows? Does the person who picks it has to synopsisize it?
I think
or is that the role of the person who it's inflicted on?
Whoa.
Actually, you know what? I'm going to do it because I want to hear you recount what happens in my film. So, the Neverending Story opens. We meet Bastian Balthazar Bucks.
No.
Anyway,
that's just the beginning.
He is he's having trouble. He's a little kid. He's probably 10 years old, and he's a dreamer. And his the big thing in his life is that his mother has recently passed away, and his father, Gerald McGraney, Simon, one of the Simons of Simon and Simon, or Hearst from Deadwood, if you need that.
Sure.
He's like, you gotta get things together. You gotta get this. Gotta work this out.
Feet on the ground.
Keep your feet on the ground.
Yeah.
And don't be late for school. And so he runs to school. He is set upon by some bullies, and basically he hides in a bookshop and meets the kind of old man that you see in these things. Mm-hmm. The gatekeeper who tells him about this book, The Neverending Story, which is this amazing thing that he's got to check out. He lifts the book and runs to school. He's late for his math test, so he decides to hide in the attic of the school and read the story. And the rest of the film is essentially just us watching the action of the book, The Neverending Story,
right,
with commentary by Bastian.
Yes.
And then somewhere in the third act, things get a little weird. Mm-hmm. And here's how you know. Because that little actor goes, "Oh, it can't be that's impossible." And that's how we know.
Yeah, that's fairly accurate.
The Neverending Story.
Yeah. Okay, so this came out when I was pretty young. So either I didn't see it when it came out, and I have a feeling it probably wasn't on my parents' radar because I was so young when it did come out that they weren't like thinking, oh, maybe our kid might like this someday, and I doubt they saw it when it came out. And somehow lots of people my age are incredibly nostalgic about this film and think of this film very fondly. And I had always heard so much about it and could never say anything about it because I'd never seen it. And so this had been on my list for a really long time, and I've always wanted to see it. And now I've seen it.
Yeah.
And I don't really feel like my life is any different.
I blame Stranger Things.
I wanted to see this before Stranger Things.
Yeah,
so.
But this is a great example of you put a project that is designed to exploit late 70s and 80s nostalgia for baby boomers. Not baby boomer. Well, maybe baby boomers, but Gen X mostly.
Yeah.
And their children. It's called Stranger Things, and you hire 2 guys who are maybe just turned 30.
Probably
2 guys who did not live
me.
through that time.
Yeah.
And so they just pack it solid with stuff, and sometimes kids are all dressed up like the Ghostbusters with a costume budget of $5,000. which is very unrealistic for their little trip to school.
Yep.
And then you get, a large set piece based around the Neverending Story, which I know it's kind of a joke because his little girlfriend likes it and he likes it too, and his friends are going to call him gay for liking it. But also, nobody remembers this. Nobody cares. There's just no point.
There's so many other, I feel like, films that
But I mean, if you're going to do something where you're referencing a bunch of things, you're going to reference the things that you care about. Like,
right.
And I hate pointing to Shane Black for really anything, but like Monster Squad, right? The kids in the Monster Squad, they're a bunch of like homophobic, like 11-year-olds, right? And they like the universal monsters. So they're talking about werewolves. They're talking about all kinds of stuff. Barbie's going on. Betsy Wetsy's going on. There's a lot of things that are going on that they don't talk about because they like the universal monsters because Shane Black likes the universal monsters.
Right.
But he's writing... He's putting his heart in it. He's writing about something he cares about. Whereas Stranger Things is like pushing 4 seasons, and they're just running out of things to reference now. So let's just do the Neverending Story. Even if we all put our adult hats on and look back, we go, "Wow, what a freaking terrible film." Okay, now I'll shut up, and you can talk about Neverending Story for 20 minutes.
Okay, well, I wanted to see it because it's kind of like fantasy genre, and it's like this fairy tale, like with kids and stuff like that. And I thought, oh, how great. And we sit and we're watching it, and at the very beginning we find out that this magical land is called Fantasia. Wow, and I was like,
that blew you away.
I was like, you are creating this whole new world. Why not come up with a whole new name? No limits. You're coming up with all these things. You're playing with scale a lot. But they just didn't do that. And I just felt like that was in some ways indicative of the story that we were about to watch, because in the in the end it's really not all that creative. I mean, it's basically
it's about imagination.
But see, I feel like they don't even totally ram that home, because what is the real story? What's the message we're supposed to get for Bastian here? He's supposed to keep his feet on the ground, and no, I can't have fun. I can't have an imagination. And then he reads this book that literally it becomes your story. So if anybody else reads this book, he can never return this book. If anybody else reads this book, it's not Bastian's story anymore.
Right, but it could be anybody's story. I there must have been some magic in that old book that he stole from that guy, and I'm just assuming that
if an adult read it,
but
if
I'm
it's
just assuming
supposed to be a little kid.
But okay. So like, what I want is the prequel where the old man's reading it, and he's like a James Bond figure, and he's like taking secretaries 2 at a time and killing the Russian general or something like that.
Oh, you think it's just your
different.
Whatever your fantasy is?
Yeah, it's a never-ending story. It can be whatever for anybody.
Okay, I like that idea.
The very weak point of the book is books are great, and I love it when a movie is lecturing me to read more books.
Well, and then so at the end, it's like Fantasia's gone, but you saved the Empress somehow because you yelled out your mom's name, which was Moonchild. I had to look up.
Thank you for telling me that, because it's 30 years and I never knew, because in the film it's just
you can't understand a damn thing he's saying.
No.
And it's something that a lot of people looked up because it came up right away, and I think I told you this. I felt stupider having looked it up, but I had to know. And then I was like, well, now I kind of wish I didn't know.
Isn't Cancer a moonchild?
Oh, well, yeah. Yes.
Cancer.
Yeah. Okay.
And my name is...
But my problem is, it's all about imagination, the power of imagination. It's just him and the Empress, Bastian and the Empress. And she's like, you can imagine whatever you want. And so Bastian remembers everything that was in the Neverending Story, and he doesn't add anything else. He frickin' was drawing unicorns in his math book. Do we see a unicorn? No. He could do anything, and all he does is imagine the book exactly how it happened. But then... Well,
there's got to be some element. So, okay, all right. All right. I'm with you on this. Okay?
Okay.
First of all, let me just say, F an 80s fantasy movie. There's no good fantasy movies in the 80s.
Labyrinth.
Well, Labyrinth, look, we already talked about Labyrinth, because Labyrinth is like, Jim Henson is always like, let's just do what nobody's ever done. So if we're going to have a Hobbit, what would you never see a Hobbit do? Take a whiz in a lake. So welcome to the fantasy world.
Right.
There's a Hobbit peeing in a lake.
Mm-hmm.
We're going on from here.
Right.
But here's the thing about Labyrinth. It's all allegorical. Now, I'm not saying every fantasy thing has to be allegorical, but when you leave the allegory path, you better have something there. Because if you don't, you've got Willow, you've got... And everybody's like, I love Willow. And the next thing is, you got Legend. I love Legend. Go back as an adult and watch these films.
Right.
They don't make any sense.
Nope.
It's a bunch of like 50-year-old like dudes or ladies trying to come up with like, oh, it's
what
a
would
goofy.
a kid do?
Yeah, well, it's a goofy elf that's like dancing around or something, and it just none of it's connected. None of the jokes are funny. They're just dumb, and you're supposed to just be, oh, my jaw is agape. I'm just amazed by the wealth of fantastical elements on display. And you're not. And you're just wondering when it's going to end. Mm-hmm. And Val Kilmer's the best part of it.
Yeah.
Take that, Tom Cruise. Top Gun 2. And so you've got that problem. And then in this, like, yeah, he could have opened up the book, and it could have been, sure, then nothing is... a representative of, existential terror of being a kid or something like that. But none of the elements are allegorical at all. He kind of connects himself with Atreyu.
Right.
They're both whiny enough.
Yeah.
But otherwise there is no real connection. It's just a thing for a while. It's a weird quest. And then, at the end of it, suddenly the princess looks at the camera and goes, it's you. And he's like,
right.
No, it can't be.
And then she even says Bastion, know?
Right,
so it's like...
Now you're in this thing.
Yeah, exactly.
And the reality is, okay, so you're trying to connect, Bastion's dreaminess and him needing to keep his feet on the ground, but also that's what adults want you to do when it's about adults grow up and lose their sense of wonder. So keep your sense of wonder
and your creativity.
And your creativity. And also there's a lesson about, well, you need to, pay your taxes. And that's kind of keeping your feet on the ground. But if there were any allegorical elements, then the movie could return to the real world. And I know we get the scene where it's kind of fun. He chases the bullies down with the luck dragon.
Right.
But there could be some connection. We could see Gerald McRaney again, and it could be like, I don't know, well, it seems like you got that math test, and, well, an elf helped me. What? Oh, never mind. Like the end of, well, here's the thing. I think we pull out at the end. Because the voice, Alan Oppenheimer, comes in and he's like, he had a lot more adventures, but that's for another time or whatever.
Right.
And we should have just pulled out, and it's Bastion in a straitjacket, in an asylum.
Whoa.
Because that's where Labyrinth goes. Because Labyrinth goes, she comes back home, and she's like, I'm never going to see my friends again. And they're like, we'll be around if you need us.
Yeah,
and she's like, I need you. And suddenly
her
room was full of everybody in the thing, and you're like, is she insane? I don't know, because she's happy, and it's like,
And then the movie ends.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And David Bowie's probably, he's the owl. He flies out, he's the owl's still there at the end, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, that's a great ending.
It is.
But this is just like, well, you're going to have to come back and read the rest later. And the thing is, I looked into it. There is a sequel. Mm-hmm. The sequel came out in, I don't know, sometime later in the 80s, or I think maybe 1990. And it has the distinction of being the first movie I fell asleep during.
Whoa.
But I think I like it more, even though I haven't seen it since 1990, because it's really cynical. Like, there are very cynical elements in this,
Yeah.
Atreyu sees, all the well, we don't see it, but like Deep Roy and the snail die apparently, and then you got the rock guy who's just like, I'm worthless and I'm gonna die now, and he does.
Yeah.
And all of Fantasia's destroyed, and it's all kind of very cynical, but triumphant and jubilant at the end. Neverending Story 2 is like really depressing, and we go back to all these characters. None of them are the same actors. In fact, John Wesley Shipp. There he is. He's right over there.
Yeah.
I got a standee.
Yeah.
Plays the dad, plays the Gerald McRaney role. And Jonathan Brandis, Sequest Boy, comes back as Bastion. But it's another thing where like an evil king or something is trying to re-destroy Fantasia or something, and everything fails and everything's bad. I remember this one part, there's these like Skeksis-like creatures, and the movie says like they were going to hunt Bastion and move at the speed of dark, which is faster than light. And I'm like, why would that be, except somebody needs to go back on their Prozac? It's just like, I don't know. There just seemed to be like an emotional attack and a through point in that film. This film, just like you said, like, what is the point? What are we supposed to get out of it except yay imagination?
Well, and then it's not even right, but it's not even. He's so fixated on his imagination, he stays within the world of the Neverending Story for a while. My question is, his mom's dead. Dad doesn't really listen. He hates school. Why the hell would he ever come back? Wouldn't he just stay in the Neverending Story forever?
I suppose he kind of does. Maybe that they suggest that he does, but he's still just drooling in an attic, right?
Wow, I guess I hadn't thought about it like that.
Right?
I guess I thought through the power of reading, he was sucked into their world and lived there and was riding a luck dragon. I don't know, because at the end of the movie, he's riding a luck dragon in the middle of the city.
But that's his, like, imagination, right? People aren't... It wasn't on the news that night.
Yeah.
Dragon flies through. The bookseller's name was Carl Conrad Coriander. Screw this movie.
What is with the names in this movie? No, and no.
So yeah, it's based on a book, and I guess the second movie is based on the second half of the book. They don't actually get all the way through the book in the first movie.
Wow.
Nice move.
Yeah.
And there is a third movie that's an original plot, and you don't want to know anything about that.
Okay.
Although Jack Black is in it.
Whoa.
I think it was one of, if not Jack Black's first role. He plays the school bully. He's a jock.
Wow.
Well, this is like 200 pounds ago.
Yeah.
And he's got a buzz cut.
Wow.
He was in that, and he's like, he probably had a horrible experience. Mm-hmm. And he's like, man, I'm never going to do that ever again. I'm going to grow my hair super long. And I'm going to get fat.
Oh my God. Yeah.
We good?
Yeah. I guess the coolest part of this was something that, I always knew about, and that would be Falkor, the luck dragon. Even though I think you were talking about it, like the way they designed him, he's really not all that.
He's basically like he's 90% of a dragon off of a Chinese menu, and then they started to like design the face and kind of gave up halfway through. So he's kind of got a dog face, but it's mostly just like a dude's face.
Yep.
He's just got like a man dog face.
Yeah. And, I would say that was the most creative, like, this movie ever really got. Because, like, a young empress, okay, whatever. And then, like, a kid who's going on the hero's journey.
The empress is 5 years older than me.
Wow.
So, she's looking like a young Fiona Apple here in the movie, but she was like 18 or something like when they made the movie.
Are you freaking kidding
Maybe
me?
not 18, but I'm trying to think of how old I was when it came out. She was probably the oldest person there. Older than that little kid in red face.
Yeah, that's another problem I had with the movie. Atreyu shows up, and I'm just like, is that? And I didn't want to quite say it out loud. Is that kid in red face? But then you said it for me.
He may be Hispanic. I don't know, but he's not. But he's not Plains Indian.
No, and yeah. So and then like there's just other random characters in this, like guy who rides a racing snail.
Yeah, and then there's the Boz, the Bobo, the Bing Bong, the guy that rides the bat.
Yeah,
and you're like, oh, I'm on board. Let's follow this guy. It's gone.
No, gone.
It's gone.
Yeah.
Everybody's really sad about like losing Artex in the Swamp of Sorrows. That happens like 22 minutes in.
We don't even know him.
I don't even know this horse.
No.
Oh, ruined my childhood. Whatever.
And like Atreyu just starts sobbing, and you're just like,
wait a minute. Why aren't you sad?
Why aren't you sinking in the swamp?
Yeah.
Well, and then like, okay,
there's more.
Well, when Atreyu like runs into the rock monster later, and he's like super depressed, and he's like, I'm just gonna let the nothing consume me. Atreyu doesn't even try to talk him out of it. He's not like, come on, you can help me with your big strong hands, or like, don't give up. A
lot of fatality, not like Mortal Kombat, but a lot of being fatal in this.
Yes, and just depressing.
And then there's the wolf, the dark wolf or whatever, and he's like, yeah.
So menacing with his double fangs.
Yeah, I'm out here just hiding in caves because, they only built my head. And if I ever lay eyes on that Atreyu guy, oh boy, I'll tell you.
I'm Atreyu, and I found this
Rar dead.
shard.
Yes.
Stab you once, and you're
80%.
gone.
This shows you the worthlessness of aggregate sites if they're going to take just anybody's review. 80% on Rotten Tomatoes, 46% on Metacritic.
Whoa.
And I'd say that's probably more accurate.
Probably. I think the 80% is people thinking back on it fondly and not actually rewatching the film.
That's right.
Yep.
Well, let's...
I'm going to say that's a pass for me.
Oh, well, you already watched it. Too late.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, Rotten Tomatoes is totally worthless. Let's talk about a film that's 100% on Rotten Tomatoes.
Whoa.
The film is called The Ipcress File.
Say that 10 times fast.
It's a 1965 espionage film, a British film about spies, directed by Sidney J. Furie, starring My Cocaine.
Yes.
And it's up to you to... Oh, no, first... Oh, wait. First, we wanted to say that the production company on this film was, or on Neverending Story, was Producers Sales Organization, which sounds like, wow, remember all those great films that they made?
Right.
And then the production company for Ipcress File is, what is it?
Oh,
Rank
man.
Film Distributor.
Yeah. We just kind of saw that and just kind of looked at each other like, what? Are you...
Plain
That's
white
what you
wrapper
wanna go
films.
with. Yeah.
Yes. What happens in the Ipcress File?
What doesn't happen in the Ipcress File? Basically, Michael Caine is a spy in England. This entire film takes place in England. London, England. For the most part. There's like a train scene at the beginning. They're going to Nottingham. Anyways.
But the train would be, the station's in London.
Yeah, you're right. So basically we're following this guy at the very beginning, and there's another guy in the car with him. He's kind of... Okay. He gets on the train. He forgot his camera. The guy runs back to give the camera to him, and it's not him. Wait, what happened to... did they call him... Was it Dr. Radcliffe or Professor Radcliffe?
He's a scientist. I don't know.
He's a scientist. Last name is Radcliffe. He's like, you're not Radcliffe. And then, that guy gets killed. The movie starts. And
Scene 2. Michael Caine.
Okay, so Michael Caine is a spy.
Gets up in the morning, makes coffee.
He works for this guy named Major Ross. Major Ross calls him in and is like, you got a reassignment.
You're literally gonna go see if I see that.
I'm not. And then he starts working for this guy named Dolby. And they are trying to get this guy Radcliffe, the scientist, back. There have been a lot of disappearances of scientists. It's very suspicious. His body hasn't showed up yet, so they think he was just taken. And they have a few clues as to who it is. They follow the clues. There's a lot of twists and turns. Who does this? Who does that? People stabbing each other in the back. Double agents. And brainwashing, and a lot of just 60s spy stuff.
Yes.
And so basically Michael Caine starts following the
Well,
yarn.
I think you did it, right? You got to the end.
Okay,
Now
yeah.
So back to scene 2.
Okay, all right. So
An alarm clock goes off.
Yeah, all right.
Does it signify danger? Does it signify alarm in the life of this man with a boring spy life?
Well, he seems pretty nonplussed by it.
Right.
So.
But that's the quality
I see what you're saying.
of Harry Palmer.
Yeah.
This is real. This is real.
You think it's a boring name for a spy? Do you think they did it on purpose?
Somebody message us and tell her what Harry Palmer means. Anyway.
Oh, I don't know what it means. What does it mean?
Let's triple down on it then. Yeah, this came out in 1965. Dr. No came out in 1962. Dr. No is
James Bond.
the first James Bond movie.
Yeah, okay.
So this was conceived 60s spy stuff. You got the Avengers, The Man from U.N.C.L.E.
Yeah.
Huge.
Yeah.
This is really the heyday of the spy fiction trope. And this was kind of conceived as a downbeat alternative to James Bond, which is, of course, gadgets, bombast, boobast,
Could be kind of silly.
Boobin' ass.
Yeah.
And this was produced by Harry Saltzman, who was the co-producer of the Bond films, along with
the Broccoli's.
The Broccoli's, Albert Broccoli. Only one Broccoli back then.
Oh, okay.
Up until, I think, Man with the Golden Gun.
Okay.
And then they had a falling out, and he sold his. He owned half of Bond. He sold it to UA.
Okay.
So that's why UA was, and then MGM when they bought them was the co-producer of the films for so long. So I don't know if he was like trying to start like a side business, a little side hustle.
I wouldn't be surprised.
But I think it was in a lot of ways conceived as being an alternative to that. You know, if one guy's going to be parachuting off a mountain, this guy's going to be in a British phone box.
Doing the most boring
just
stuff.
calling somebody. Yeah. Right.
And
it is. It works. And it was also, the music was composed by John Barry, the composer of Goldfinger and many of the 60s Bond films. So all the pieces are in place here for a British spy film that is deliberately paced.
Yes.
I gotta say, he doesn't have a car that turns into a sub, but the movie has a ton of character, and it carries you through what's going on. And my only complaint would be that it isn't, because I think that the movie gets hijacked. The first two, Michael Caine was in a lot of 60s and 70s British crime films as well.
Yeah, sure.
Like Get Carter and that sort of thing. He's always playing a guy named Harry. And those are very much like, whereas American crime films have to have somebody who's getting shot in the forehead or they're getting their legs broken by a baseball bat. There's just a lot of guys in like trench coats like threatening each other.
Sure.
In British crime films. You've seen Performance.
Yes.
Like Performance is like 12% of a British crime film, but then it's also just Mick
Lots
Jagger's
of stuff
wang.
going on.
Yeah. So anyway, that's kind of like where Michael Caine is in this, and it feels like that to me. The first 2/3, the last third of the movie becomes like an In Like Flint, Austin Powers movie, and I think that's where it falls down because we set all these things up before. Like, you know, you've got Harry Palmer. You're gonna get it someday. Harry Palmer likes the ladies. He likes the birds. You know what I mean? And you think like, well, if this is a script, then that's going to be his problem. That's going to get him in trouble in the end. It doesn't.
I thought it would.
Yeah, not really.
Yeah, like I thought like Jean or Courtney or whatever her name was, like
I think it's Jean Courtney.
I think it is Jean Courtney, and like I thought her name was Courtney, and then they were calling her Jean, and I got real confused.
No, it's just Jean Courtney.
Yeah. But he accuses her of working for Ross, and she like kind of like plays back and forth with him, like, oh, and then he just like kind of gives up on it, and then you find out later she is working for Ross, and then you
what's up? People might want to watch this film that is 100% on Rotten Tomatoes.
All right.
It's rarefied air. It's a perfect film according to Rotten Tomatoes.
Yeah.
So we don't want to ruin the twists and the turns. That's the best part.
Okay, sorry.
I'm just saying there's no rocket sleds in this. Do you know what I mean?
No.
And if you were Broccoli and you're like, oh, what are you working on there, Saltz? What's going on? And you watch the Ipcress file and you're like, I think we're okay. We're going to the moon in this next one.
Yeah.
You know? You're probably totally happy making that, but I bet there's a lot of people that are like, I like this. There were 2 sequels to this.
Was there really?
Yeah.
Wow.
It was successful.
Yeah, no, I can believe it.
Although you could have like had a dog farting, in a trench coat, and it would have been successful in the 60s if it was a spy thing.
Wow.
Although that's not true of Casino Royale, unfortunately. And it also reminds me of the work of Jean Le Carré, who, I'm afraid to look. He's still alive, right?
I don't know.
I don't think he's really producing anymore, but he produced for so long. And his books like, Tinker Tailor Soldier Spy and The Spy That Came In From the Cold and all his books about the Circle, just a bunch of guys dourly drinking tea, kind of glowering at each other. It's that kind of spy book.
Yeah.
And that's what this is. And luckily, I love that. So I was happy as a pig in shit watching this. Although I do think that it got I almost think it got too wacky at the end, Come on, let's keep these lips stiff.
Wow.
We got to keep these upper lips stiff.
Yeah.
I love the, and we won't ruin anything, but the showdown at the end is just a bunch of guys all just being like, nah, that ain't it. And then the guy's like, yeah, come on. The guy's like, oh, screw you. It's just like you compare that to like the end of Reservoir Dogs or something like that.
Right.
It's like, what is everybody on meth?
Yeah.
But yeah, this was so well shot that it was probably too well shot. I was getting a little angry at how
You were?
how well this was shot.
Oh my goodness.
Because if it's really good, you don't really like think about it, right?
Yeah, I hear you.
So, but it's just so good that you're just, man, that's a great shot. Or like there's Dutch angles in it, but this is before Dutch angles were worn out.
Mm-hmm.
So there's the cameras and the shots are, they are magnifying the sense of paranoia or the sense of distancing or alienation, and you're getting all these neat keyhole shots, where you don't know how they set it up. They'll close a door and there's little holes in the screen, but the actors' faces are all on their marks, and so they're sort of like isolated in this field, and it's just like, oh, stop being so good. Sidney Furie is a great director. He was known as one of the three Sydneys, Sidney Lumet, Sidney Pollack, and Sidney Furie, were all operated around this time. I just watched a great Sidney Pollack film I'll be talking about on Backtracking called They Shoot Horses, Don't They?
Oh, okay. What's that about?
I don't know. I almost did it for this show, but too late now.
Oh, wow.
It's been done.
Wow.
I'll tell you what it's about.
Okay.
It's about a dance marathon.
What?
You know dance marathons?
Sure, but that doesn't sound... I wouldn't have guessed that at all with the title. At all.
Maybe you should watch it.
Yeah, maybe.
God, I don't know what else to say except this is just a really great movie. And you should go watch it. What do you have to say?
It was definitely deliberately paced and maybe a little bit too deliberate for me at times, because there were times where I was watching it and I was like, wow, I really wish something would happen, and then like something would happen, but it was. You
didn't like the fact that when they go and they get Palmer and they're like, all right, Palmer, you're getting it's not really a promotion, but you're going to get moved to this other department.
Yeah.
And they take him to this building, and it's like that
was fun.
A very unassuming building,
Mm-hmm.
and they take him in, and they own the whole building.
Right.
You learn that over the course of the introduction, and there's offices in all the different parts of the building, like it's a normal building.
Yeah.
But it's like first he walks into an employment office, and that's where he is getting his job. That's where they're
Yes.
onboarding him, and then they walk to the next floor, and it's like a fireworks company, and that's like the armory where all the guns are.
Right.
And then they go to like TV and editing cutting room service or whatever, and that's like where they show films and the briefings are.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, that's good.
No, I liked that.
How did Austin Powers miss that?
Yeah. I know. No, I thought that was good. And I feel like the movie did surprise me. Like, I would think it would be going one way, and then it would kind of like go in a different direction.
Yeah.
So I thought that was good, because sometimes movies like this, and maybe this is before movies like this were predictable, because this is like the beginning of movies like this.
Yeah, but plots still were internally consistent and wrapped up. Like,
yeah.
Apparently the proto-proton scattering device is a total MacGuffin, because that never comes into play.
Well,
that's the movie begins with them stealing this device, and you think, oh, we got to get this back. And spoiler alert, but that thing's gone.
I thought that was code for Radcliffe the entire time, and he starts doing his talk about it.
Right, but it is a thing. Like, it is. This is all
okay.
Cold War. This is us and them, and the book actually has deals with like weapons of mass destruction and stuff like that.
Oh,
this is really pared down for the film, maybe for budgetary concerns. And like at one point, he's getting in trouble with the CIA, and you think that's going to be a thing.
Mm-hmm.
And apparently, it's it's not really a thing.
No, it's not.
But I'll tell you one thing.
What?
Remember, when you get a call about Jock being killed, hold the phone like this. That way, see the audience, they can see you reacting to.
You're doing your Michael Caine.
You don't remember that he did the? All right, doesn't matter.
Oh, yeah, I know he was in Austin Powers. Yeah.
No, that's not what it is.
What?
Don't worry about it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. But I thought the third act was the most... this part, unfortunately.
Yeah, it was the most out
It's
there.
cool. The one thing I really like about those kind of stories, though, is that nobody ever really... You are touched by this world, and you are, marked indelibly. Like, your world... There is no way. You should read this by The Came In From the Cold. That's a great book, and I guess I can't say any more. But there isn't any coming in from the cold. You are marked by this forever, because once you leave the world of... I did like the scene where he meets with Ross, and they're in the shopping market.
Yeah, that was good.
That was good. And they're just meeting in the open like spies would, but they're going like the wrong way, like down this aisle, and they keep running into things and crashing into other carts.
Yeah.
And it's like the Sister Christian scene from Boogie Nights. It's like the kids throwing the M80s, and it's like it keeps creating this tension in this scene that. Well, there's a little more tension, I guess, in the implied danger in the Boogie Nights thing, but it's just a conversation, but yet it's ratcheting up this tension because you know that we're not at the point, the pot's not boiling over yet, but it's sort of getting there, and then these crashes keep happening, but just old ladies with shopping trolleys, so I thought that was really great.
Yeah.
But like in this world, once you leave the world of shopping trolleys and paying your taxes and IDs and stuff, and you're sort of like, we saw this in Condor too. Once you're like, in the halls behind the stores in the mall, there is no going back to the mall after that. Like because there's no real record of you. Like they keep the records.
Yeah.
So you are who they say you are. And if you are
true.
framed for killing, say, a CIA agent, you could bring all the evidence in and kill the bad guys, and it still wouldn't matter. Like They make your future for you after that.
Right.
So that's kind of what Tinker Tailor Soldier Spy is about, too.
Yeah.
Anyway, watch it.
Or
watch Tinker Tailor Soldier Spy. Or watch was it Richard Burton? I can't remember who was in The Spy That Came In From the Cold, but that's good, too.
Okay. I haven't seen that.
Well, put it on the list. That's what this whole gosh darn thing's for.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
No Benedict Cumberbatch, though.
No. If you watch Tinker Tailor Soldier Spy, there will be Benedict Cumberbatch.
I'm through watching Benedict Cumberbatch. I don't know what was going on, but I was cruising around YouTube the other day, and I can't remember
penguins?
how. No, he should have said flying pigs, and that'll make sense in a second. I got comfortably numb on my mind for some reason. So one thing I did was I listened to the 1993 cover by the Scissor Sisters of Comfortably Numb, Don't Bother. And I haven't really found their voice just yet, but they shouldn't have been covering Pink Floyd. And then I saw a live performance of Comfortably Numb where Benedict Cumberbatch took the vocals. And I'm like, why is this happening? This should not be a thing. You're not Roger Waters. Stop that. It was dumb.
Okay. I won't watch it then.
When you're famous, you think you can do anything.
Sometimes.
Yes.
Yeah. No one can stop you.
No. There is no pain.
No.
You are receding.
Yeah. Whoa.
A distant ship smoke on the horizon. Is that it?
I think that's it.
Okay. All right. Thankfully, that's it. That's it for us. We'll be back sometime soon. As soon as we can watch some more movies for this little show, you can contact us on social media, Just Enough Trope, Facebook, Twitter, all that great stuff. We'll say goodnight, Gracie.
Good night, Gracie.
And we'll be back for more COVideos later.